Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The bass thumped through the floor like a heartbeat on steroids. Lights spun above the crowd in dizzy colors while bodies pressed together in a chaotic blur of laughter, sweat, and perfume. And in the eye of that storm stood her, Camille, laughing like she was 17 again, not married, not tethered to anyone, especially not to Ryan Keller, the man who sat 3 blocks away in a hotel lounge, sipping scotch and thinking she was out with her coworkers. But she wasn't. Ryan didn't find out through rumors or by accident. He found out through a cold, clear photo. One his best friend, Jaden Cross, texted him with the words, "You need to see this right now." He stared at the screen, the glass sweating in his hand. The image burned itself into his eyes. Camille, pressed against a man Ryan instantly recognized. Noah Rivera, her ex from grad school. The same Noah who cheated on her, disappeared, and broke her for years. And now she was back in his arms. Her hands inside his jacket, her lips on his neck. Ryan stood up, left a $100 bill on the table, and walked out. Not ran, not panicked. Walked, like a man walking toward a fire he was done trying to put out. Jaden met him at the door, his face grim. "They're still at the bar. You sure you want to do this here?" Ryan didn't answer. His jaw was locked, his steps like a machine. He pushed through the crowd. The music faded in his ears, replaced by a sickening silence that buzzed beneath his skin. There she was, Camille, her hair down, body swaying, her face flushed with pleasure as Noah whispered in her ear. Ryan didn't even feel the cold anymore. What shattered him wasn't the kiss. It was the way she looked free doing it. He stepped forward. Noah saw him first. His face twisted into a sneer, then indifference. Camille turned, and when she locked eyes with Ryan, she didn't gasp. She didn't flinch. She smiled. "Ryan," she said, like they were bumping into each other at a grocery store. He said nothing. "I guess you saw," she continued. Sliding off Noah's lap like this was all part of a scheduled announcement. Jaden stood behind Ryan, fists clenched. "How long?" Ryan asked, voice raw. Camille shrugged. "Few months. Maybe more. Who's counting?" "You should be," Ryan whispered. "Because I did." He turned to leave. Noah laughed. "You don't scare me, man. She's with me now." Jaden moved first, grabbing Noah's collar. Ryan didn't stop him. When fists flew, when security broke it up, when cameras came out and caught the moment Noah got thrown into a table, Ryan didn't interfere. He just watched. As they dragged him out, Camille called after him, "We're done, Ryan. I already called a lawyer." He didn't look back, but something in him cracked. Not the kind of crack that heals. The kind that splits a man down the middle. By sunrise, Ryan had locked every joint account, froze her credit cards, changed all home access codes. His attorney, Mason Doyle, had filed preemptive divorce papers listing infidelity as the cause, and Jaden had delivered the photo and the club footage. The betrayal was public, viral. Camille's friends tried to defend her, but no one could explain the footage. No one could erase her laugh echoing above the music as she kissed her ex like her marriage had never existed. Ryan returned home, pulled out a suitcase, and went room to room. Her dresses, her makeup, her shoes, all bagged. He didn't trash them. He delivered them to her father's house, rang the bell, and said one thing to the stunned man who opened the door. "She's not coming back. Not to that house. Not to me. And not to the life she set on fire." That night, he didn't drink. He planned. Revenge wasn't about yelling or violence. Not anymore. It was going to be surgical. He started with Noah. Noah was flashy, smug, and sloppy. Through a burner account, Ryan exposed Noah's secret client fraud at Rivera Strategy Company, tagging the IRS in an anonymous whistleblower email. Then, with Jaden's help, he pushed the old screenshots of Noah's abusive messages, which Camille once showed him in tears years ago, to a few online legal watchdog groups. Noah was out of job by Friday. His LinkedIn quietly deleted by Sunday. And Camille? Camille found her accounts mysteriously inaccessible. Her gym membership revoked. The car? Repossessed, because it was in Ryan's name. But none of that compared to what he discovered next. A week later, her mother Diane showed up, tears in her eyes. "She's pregnant," Diane said. Ryan's blood froze. "It's yours," she added. "No, he said flatly. We haven't touched each other in 4 months. Diane hesitated. She's not sure. Ryan laughed. Cold. Empty. Let me guess. Could be Noah's. Could be mine. Or someone else. She doesn't know, Diane admitted. But she's scared. She says she made a mistake. She wants to talk. Ryan opened the door wider. She already did, he said, with her actions. And he shut the door in her face. But inside his hand trembled. Not because of the baby. Because part of him wanted to believe the child could be his. And that, he realized, was the most dangerous part of all. The days blurred into a haze of precision and cold execution. Ryan wasn't the kind of man who shouted in rage or wallowed in heartbreak. No. When he'd had enough, he rebuilt the battlefield and burned it on his terms. He went back to his morning jogs before sunrise, as if his life hadn't been flipped inside out. The dogs, Dakota and Flint, never left his side. Every breath of dawn air reminded him of what control felt like again. While Camille posted cryptic quotes on social media about betrayal and growth, he stayed quiet and tightened every screw around her life. The HR manager at her company received an anonymous email with a link to the nightclub footage. Just a subtle nudge. The video showed her in vivid clarity, in the arms of a man, not her husband, her hands far from innocent. The board didn't like public scandals. The company prided itself on discretion and reputation. Camille wasn't fired, not right away, but they moved her from client-facing roles to an internal desk. Her panic calls came within days. He never picked up. When she finally showed up at his office, mascara streaked and eyes trembling, the receptionist politely declined to let her through. I just want 5 minutes, she whispered. You had 5 years, the receptionist replied, cool and practiced, having heard the full story from Ryan the night before. Camille walked out with her shoulders slumped and her eyes burning with something between shame and disbelief. Later that evening, Ryan stood in his living room, sipping bourbon. The sun dipped below the skyline as Jaden leaned against the kitchen counter. She's unraveling, Jaden said. You good with that? I'm not celebrating, Ryan replied quietly. But I'm not saving her, either. She said the baby might be yours, Jaden added cautiously. Ryan didn't flinch. And if it is, I'll do right by the child. But her? She made her choices. He had already retained a private paternity lawyer. Everything was ready. Once the child was born, they'd test. Until then, she would not hold that unborn child like a weapon against him. Noah, meanwhile, was nowhere to be found. After losing his job, he'd fled the state. Rumors floated that he'd tried to get a new gig in Arizona, but the shadow of scandal followed him everywhere. Ryan made sure of that. A few tap connections, a background check, and a flag file attached to every HR system Noah ever walked into. One by one, the bridges behind Camille collapsed. Even Preston and Ava, her 2 closest so-called friends, began to vanish. Preston had his own problems. A quiet IRS investigation opened into suspicious financials tied to his digital startup. Anonymous, untraceable, but precise. Ryan wasn't interested in vengeance for drama. He was dismantling a network of betrayal. And yet, beneath all the precision and cold fire, something inside him wasn't healed. At night, after the house fell silent, he'd sometimes sit on the back porch and just listen. To the wind, to the world, to the echo of Camille's voice, laughing in that club like he was a stranger. He hated that part of him still missed her, so he buried it deeper. It was only a week later when Diane showed up again, this time not alone. Camille was with her, and she looked different, tired, pale. Something in her was slipping, like someone clinging to the edge of a cliff with bleeding fingers. She held her stomach, visibly pregnant now, 5 months along maybe. But her eyes, those weren't a woman's eyes anymore. They were a child's. Lost. Ryan stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. Dakota and Flint stood behind him, quiet but alert. You shouldn't be here, he said. Camille's voice cracked. Please. I didn't know where else to go. They're threatening to fire me. I'm 5 weeks behind on rent. I've been staying with a coworker, but she's leaving town. Ryan leaned against the doorframe. That sounds like a you problem. She flinched. I know I hurt you. I betrayed everything we had. But I'm begging you, just help me get through the next few months. I don't even know if this baby is mine or his. I don't even want to think about it anymore. But I don't have the strength to do this alone. He watched her as if through glass. You didn't care about me when you made out with your ex in public, he said, his voice sharp and quiet. You didn't care when you humiliated me. You didn't care when I walked out. Now that the applause has stopped and the lights are off, you come back here like I'm your safety net. Her lower lip trembled. It wasn't supposed to go this way. It never is. She wiped her face and whispered, "Do you still love me?" Ryan didn't hesitate. No. The silence that followed broke something invisible between them. Diane stepped forward, reaching in her purse and pulling out a manila envelope. "It's the preliminary paternity results," she said, voice trembling. "They rushed it because of the complications. They tested using residual material from old blood work stored at the clinic." Ryan opened the envelope and read. Negative. Not his. The tension in his shoulders didn't release. It hardened. "Get off my porch." "Ryan, please." Camille choked, one hand on her belly, the other reaching for the man she had once promised to grow old with. He stepped back, grabbed the door, and locked his jaw. "If I ever see you here again, I'll have you removed by the police. You burned your lifeboats. You walked into the fire smiling. You chose this." She stumbled back as the door slammed shut. Diane didn't even try to protest. She knew. Ryan turned, walked into the kitchen, and threw the envelope into the trash without a second glance. Behind him, Dakota growled softly at the door. "Jaden called that night. I heard she tried to come back," he said. "She did," Ryan replied. "She brought paperwork." Jaden was silent for a beat. "And it's not mine." Jaden exhaled. "You gonna feel guilty about it later?" "No," Ryan said, finishing his drink. "But I'm gonna make sure she remembers what happens when you gamble your future for one night of cheap attention." "You already did." "No," Ryan said calmly. "That was just the beginning." Camille didn't return after that night. For the first time in months, Ryan felt the house breathe. It was quiet, predictable. The kind of silence he used to fear now felt earned. He got up early, walked Dakota and Flint by the lake, started lifting again, and buried himself in work. His father, finally noticing the fire in Ryan's focus, gave him a major promotion at the firm. Not ceremonial this time. Real control. "You've changed," his father had said in the boardroom, handing over the access codes. But in a good way. Ryan nodded. Life has a way of clarifying priorities. At home, he built a new gym in the garage, tore out the wine cabinet, and replaced it with a reading corner. He deleted every old photo of Camille and boxed up the wedding album. Not with anger, with finality. Meanwhile, Camille's spiral turned public. Jaden forwarded him a clip from a neighborhood Facebook group. Camille, disheveled, was caught arguing with a gas station clerk, accusing him of overcharging her. She stormed out without paying. The post said police were called. A week later, Ryan's receptionist told him a woman had come in asking for a job. Said she used to be married to the boss. "Did you call security?" Ryan asked. She smiled. "Didn't have to. She walked out on her own." He said nothing, but something twisted in his chest. Jaden texted again. "She's living out of her car now. It's getting bad." Ryan didn't reply. He was tired of the updates. She'd made her choices. But then, one Saturday morning, something unexpected happened. He was out at the dog park. Dakota and Flint were chasing each other, and he was sipping coffee. A woman passed by, walking a German shepherd. The dog nudged Dakota playfully, and a low bark turned into a chase. The woman laughed. "Looks like they're best friends already." He smiled, nodded. "I'm Ryan." "Madeline," she said, adjusting her glasses. She wasn't flashy. No expensive perfume. No overdone makeup. Just jeans, a hoodie, and bright, intelligent eyes that actually listened when he spoke. They talked for half an hour. About dogs, books, music. She didn't bring up relationships. Didn't ask if he was single. She just existed beside him, without pressure. That night, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He told himself not to rush anything. He wasn't ready. But when she invited him to a dog training session the following week, he said yes. And for once, it wasn't about forgetting Camille. It was just easy. Then, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, Camille showed up at his office again. His assistant buzzed him. "She's here. Says it's urgent." He sighed. 5 minutes. No more. She walked in slowly. Her coat was soaked, her cheeks sunken. She looked nothing like the woman who once danced under neon lights. "I just came to say sorry," she whispered. "You don't have to respond. I've lost everything. I blamed you. I blamed everyone. But it was me. All of it. You didn't deserve it. Ryan didn't say a word. She wiped her nose with a tissue. He left before the baby was born. Said it wasn't his problem. The baby's almost 3 months now. I'm trying to get help. Rehab. Therapy. Whatever I can find. He gave a small nod. Still silent. I'm not asking for money, she added quickly. I just want to say it while I still could. That's all. She turned to leave. Ryan's voice stopped her. What's the baby's name? She turned around, surprised. Leo. He nodded again. Then she left. No dramatic ending. No last apology. Just a quiet door closing behind her. And for Ryan, it was enough. Fall settled in with crisp air and golden leaves. Ryan hadn't felt this light in years. He met Madeline for coffee every Sunday, and what began as casual chats turned into long walks, shared dinners, and quiet evenings with dogs curled at their feet. She didn't pry, never asked for his past in detail, just let him reveal what he wanted, when he was ready. One night, over dinner, she finally asked, "Do you still love her?" He didn't lie. No, but sometimes, I still remember who I thought she was. Madeline nodded. That's fair. It wasn't a perfect relationship, but it was honest. And for Ryan, honesty had become everything. They kept it simple. No social media. No labels. Just two people figuring it out. Her dog, Max, got along with Dakota and Flint like they'd been raised together. Ryan had let his guard down. Until one afternoon changed everything. It started with a voicemail. Unknown number. A woman's voice. Shaky. Whispering. You don't know me, but Camille. She's gone. I mean, she left. Disappeared. She left the baby at a shelter. I found your name in an old journal. I think you should know. He sat in silence. The glass of water in his hand felt frozen. She left. He called the shelter. They confirmed it. The baby, Leo, had been dropped off 2 days ago. No note. Just a bag with some clothes and a birth certificate. Camille hadn't been seen since. He drove there that evening. He didn't know what he expected. Maybe to feel anger. But when he saw the child, small, sleepy, cheeks pink from crying, something broke open inside him. He didn't take the baby home. Not that night. But he left a donation. Left his number. Just in case no one came back. Madeline noticed something in him had changed. You okay? She asked softly. He nodded. But later, as they sat on the couch, he finally spoke. She left the baby. Madeline set down her tea. You mean? She walked away. I don't even know where she is. She didn't speak right away. Just moved closer, resting her head on his shoulder. She's not your responsibility, Madeline whispered. I know, Ryan replied. But he didn't ask to be born. The following week, the shelter called again. No one had come forward. Camille's trail was cold. No credit card activity. No sightings. It was like she vanished. A social worker asked if Ryan wanted to be listed as a fallback guardian, even though he wasn't the father. He said yes. Not because of Camille, because of Leo. And somehow, that one decision softened something in him. That night, Madeline said quietly, You'd be a good dad. He didn't answer. He just looked at her and thought, for the first time in years, that maybe life wasn't about revenge anymore. Maybe it was about redemption. 3 months passed. Ryan never heard from Camille again. The police couldn't find her. Her name showed up once at a shelter 2 states away, but by the time anyone followed the lead, she was gone again. No phone records. No bank activity. It was like she had erased herself. Leo remained in foster care, healthy but quiet. Ryan visited him every 2 weeks. Not because he had to, but because no one else did. He brought formula, blankets, toys. The baby would reach for his fingers sometimes. Ryan didn't know what it meant, but it always made his chest tighten. Madeline watched from a respectful distance. Never pushed. But one day, after seeing him walk in from a visit, she gently asked, Have you thought about taking him in? He didn't answer right away. He poured coffee, sat down, and finally said, Yeah, every day. She didn't smile. She didn't congratulate him. She just reached across the table and took his hand. Then came the letter. A plain envelope slid under his front door. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded twice. It was in Camille's handwriting. Ryan, if this ever reaches you, it means I couldn't do what I promised. I thought I could raise him. I thought I could become someone worthy of being a mother. But every day I look in the mirror, I see what I've done. To you. To myself. To everyone. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't want sympathy. But I do want one thing. That Leo ends up with someone who has a soul. I ruined everything I touched. But maybe you can build something new. Maybe you already have. Tell him I'm sorry. And if I'm ever brave enough to come back, I hope he never knows who I really was. Camille. Ryan sat with the letter in his lap for an hour. Then he picked up the phone and called a caseworker. 3 months later, Leo came home. Madeline was there. So were Dakota, Flint, and Max. The baby cried at first, but soon quieted in Madeline's arms. Ryan watched her soothe him, humming softly. You sure about this? She asked. Ryan nodded. I've never been more sure of anything. They didn't rush into marriage. There were no grand romantic gestures, no dramatic proposals. Just trust, slow and steady. Leo grew, learned to laugh, started walking, called Ryan, one warm summer evening on the porch, and the moment cracked something open in Ryan's chest that would never fully close again. Sometimes, he'd look at the boy and wonder what Camille would have been like if she hadn't burned herself to ash. But he never said out loud, because the past didn't live here anymore. Years later, when Leo asked where he came from, Ryan sat him down and told him the truth. Not all the ugly details, just the parts that mattered. You weren't a mistake, he said. You were the beginning of something better. And Leo smiled, because even without knowing the full story, he could feel it. He was loved, and that, more than revenge, more than redemption, was what truly lasted.